Lastly, I'd like to ask my friend, His Excellency Ambassador Idrissov, who has served as a foreign minister for his country, a distinguished diplomatic record over many years through the independence period, and it's an honor that he's chosen to be with us for the whole of today's session, not one of those who just pops in and out, as bosses so often do. It's great to have had you here, sir. And very much look forward to hearing your final remarks.
Well, Dan, thank you very much. Thank you for your sense of humor. My distinguished friends, my lords, Lord Hanna is with us, distinguished members of the Parliament, Dr. Jeremy Corbyn, my good friend Bob Stewart. He had to pop out, but on purpose and with reason. He is the chair of the Kazakh APPG in Westminster. I'd like to welcome all the panelists, of course, all the participants online. We live in a peculiar times. We went through the pandemic, and particularly this period I call the pre-post-pandemic period, where we start to try certain things which used to be normal for us. So I thank all the contributors that we dared to have this hybrid event. So some of us are present here offline. A new word was born, right? We are used to the world online, but now the new word is offline. So offline, you are in reality, in normal reality, right? So I thank for this courage, all my friends. Of course, I'd like to thank all those who dare to travel from distance. I particularly want to welcome a member of the French Parliament, Mr. Moitai Brotherson, and many others who traveled from a distance to come and participate in this event. This is really very much appreciated. Of course, I'd like to thank all the contributors to this event. Alan from Global Coordinator from PNND just spoke before us. The Youth Fusion part of PNND, of course, is most welcome. And the Nursultan Foundation, Nazarbayev Foundation, which joined hand with us to produce this event. I'm very proud that we sit this afternoon in this beautiful building. And as you know, Kazakhstan, let me say that Kazakhstan was a bit faster than Ukraine to announce its strong anti-nuclear position. And our arsenal was really the fourth in the world after big powers, right? But our case can be a good model, an example of how one can benefit going anti-nuclear way. So we have a good recognized and proven and respected record in this point. Let me tell that from day one, we chose a very principled policy of having a very strong anti-nuclear voice globally. And we called on everyone to join us in this effort. And we never hesitated in our choice, although there were many visitors who invited us to rattle with nuclear weapons. And every year we tried in different capitals, in New York, in different capitals, we tried to gather this type of events. We partner with so many international, global organizations, regional organizations who share with us this cause. And the novelty of today's event is, of course, very important, and I'd like to stress it. First of all, it's a nexus between nuclear disaster and climate disaster. And secondly, recognizing that this is a transgenerational issue, we have invited representatives of different generations. I'm particularly happy to see quite a strong presence of our young friends. Let me just mention the OEC core group of youth experts. Aigerim was representing them. Of course, Dan Plesch's Center for International Studies and Diplomacy at SOAS University. I mentioned the Youth Fusion of PNND. Let me also mention the APPG on Future Generations from Westminster, Youth Pogwash movement, CTBTO Youth Group, Kazakhstan PhD Association in London, in UK, and Youth for the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. So this is a very powerful representation of different generations, and I think this is the value of this event. Lord Heine mentioned that we are sitting in a very historic building, and actually when we were trying to choose the location, we chose this location because in these very premises, in January 1946, the first session of the General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly, took place. And this session had the very first resolution to establish a special commission of the Security Council. And this special commission was tasked with the job, I quote, to control atomic energy to ensure its use only for peaceful purposes and the elimination from national armaments of atomic weapons and all other major weapons adaptable to mass destruction. The language sounds a little bit kind of old term, but the essence is the same. Eliminate nuclear weapons, stop doing nuclear wars. Unfortunately, Alice, 75 years after, we are still struggling to implement this resolution. This is a very, very sad recognition of this very sad fact. 6 months only after this resolution, in July of 1946, the first ever nuclear test explosion was done on Earth in Los Alamos in New Mexico. And unfortunately, Kazakhstan has been chosen by the Stalin government, Joseph Stalin's government, to be the epicenter of the Soviet Union's nuclear program. And the first test in Semipalatinsk in Kazakhstan was done on the 29th of August, 1949, just to catch up with the United States in the arms race. This is when the arms race started, and it never stopped, and it continues. And the new trends, many speakers spoke about them today. There are many new dangerous trends in this and turns in this new page of nuclear race, which is absolutely disturbing. 75 years, the very leaders of great powers, so-called P5 countries, call on everyone, on themselves, to stop nuclear disaster. And what we see 75 years after, we see the turning of the new page, new nuances of this absolutely despicable behavior and developments. Many scientists today say that we entered the so-called Anthropocene era, right? This is the era of a new geological era where the human activity became the most ugly driving force behind the very dangerous geological changes. The human impact on the biosphere has acquired absolutely unprecedented scale. And the danger is that this Anthropocene era is not only affecting the geological landscapes, it brings lots of danger to social, political, and economic contours of human life. And scientists say that the starting point of this Anthropocene era was the first nuclear explosion and the nuclear arms race. Therefore, it is absolutely timely for all of us to talk very vehemently with a strong voice, as strong as possible, about the danger of this nexus. Dr. Weber gave absolutely fantastic figures of the huge disparity between the nuclear spending, military spendings, and the climate change spendings. Absolutely devastating figures. And they're showing also the hypocrisy, huge hypocrisy which stands behind that. Now we are in the advent of the COP26 here in this country, with huge goals, with so much, I'm sorry to say, noise about the need to unite efforts to address the challenges of the climate change. But at the same time, we see these figures. And one of the calls in the advent of the COP26 is to raise resources to address those challenges. Resources are here. They're not hidden. And the next is very simple. Stop wasting money on absolutely deadly nuclear weapons and programs, and divert those money into human development and climate protection and everything else which is related to that. Unfortunately, Kazakhstan and Central Asia has found themselves in the epicenter of these ugly developments of the 20th century. Two just examples to show how ugly it is. Semi-practice testing grounds affecting millions of people, not from the explosion themselves, but in the long years after the testing. Kazakhstan population cannot boast of being too big. We are only 18 million people, 1/8, but close to 5 million people are thought to be directly affected immediately then and in other following generations through nuclear weapons. Take another disaster, man-made disaster, Aral Sea. Again, the whole sea, the beauty of the world, has disappeared from the map. So we are absolutely familiar, unfortunately very familiar with deficit shortfall of water resources, soil degradation, air pollution, loss of biodiversity, and these are the existential threats to Kazakhstan and Central Asia. Therefore, some time ago, 15 years actually ago, yesterday was the day of the 15th anniversary of the signature of the Central Asia nuclear weapons-free zone. That was, of course, Central Asian countries understand that they don't have anything in their hand to influence this global matter. But with this small gesture, they wanted to reinforce their call to appeal to those who signed that first resolution to stick to that resolution and implement that resolution. That's very important. And finally, let me say I was very heartened to participate in today's discussion. Therefore, I didn't pop out. I don't have a habit of popping out. But it was very heartening and encouraging because there are so many people in different corners of the world who are really concerned with this matter. They take it to their hearts. Take the figures which Dr. Weber have produced. He was talking about the indigenous population. Our friend from France, he and Polynesia, he was talking about the guinea pigs. Kazakh population, part of the Soviet Union, we were the guinea pigs then. In the same way, we were the indigenous guinea pigs which were subject to these experiments without our knowledge. Without our knowledge, people were just getting out of their houses and seeing those mushrooms and then seeing those fallouts and everything else without any explanation and any warning of dangers to the health. Therefore, we have to stop this disaster. We have to remind small and big countries that there is a resolution which is still remains unimplemented. This is a disaster. In fact, our first president, we became members of the United Nations in 1992. I was a happy young diplomat then who established our mission in New York for the first time in 1992. I remember the first presentation by our first president, Nazarbayev, at the UN General Assembly. And one of his key points was to divert 1%, only 1% of military spendings by all countries, UN members, to development purposes. He said, it's very simple. It's very simple, just 1% of military spendings. Why it is so difficult? 15 years, this call was ignored completely. We worked in New York, we worked in different capitals. We went and said, let's do this, let's implement this. It is reflected in our official statement there. We were politely ignored. We were politely ignored. Some referred to classified sort of information of military spendings. We appealed to CIPRI. We had the CIPRI figures here, the Swedish Institute, right? Some appealed to some other reasons, but in the end, my president reverted to this matter in 2015 when Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations were adopted. And he said, let's do, you are looking for money to implement this SDGs. This is the money. Let's go back to my proposal of 1% for military spendings. Again, total disrespect and disregard to this proposal. Therefore, money is there. We have seen it today. We know it by ourselves that the money is there. What we lack is political will and trust. The world today is quite dangerous. Pandemic has uncovered two major threats to our existence. It's human resources and health and climate. Everyone recognizes and gives a lip service to nuclear disarmament or nuclear threat as the existential threat, but nothing is done. We live through this. We possess nuclear weapons, one of the most deadly arsenals. We got rid of that without any hesitation, and we were the testing ground for guinea pigs for almost 500 nuclear explosions, most deadly, including hydrogen bomb, including how it's called neutron bomb, etc., etc. We, of course, have our own reading of the history of the Soviet period of our history, and it's very multicolored. You know, we do not blame anyone. We simply blame the humans that they cannot stick to their word. Therefore, my call and conclusion today is we all come from different corners of the world. We all come from different walks of the world. We come from different generations. Let's continue to unite our voices. Let's continue to fight for this great cause to try to make sure that the lives of our future generation, my kids, your kids, grandkids, will be really safe. That's the call, that's the purpose of our lives in the end. Therefore, I think we as the government and as the nation will continue to raise our voice. We will persevere in trying to build this culture of trust. What we see around the world is a lack of trust. You take the climate change discussions and the difficult preparation for COP26, the underlying reason is trust. You take situation now in Afghanistan, it's, the underlying is a lack of trust. You take the Middle East crisis. Everywhere you see the lack of trust between a small group of countries. And in those small group of countries, you have politicians who are very grand. They take very serious, hold very serious positions, but they do nothing to make sure that the lives of our kids and their kids is really safer and more stable and prosperous. Therefore, I'm very happy that we have been able to gather in this offline hybrid form and format, being able to shake hands and come closer to each other, which may be yet a bit too early. We have to be still cautious, but the serious call is to join efforts and has every opportunity to bring that reality as close as it is possible. There is a new reality of this nuclear treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons, right? It has been signed by more than 60 countries, but to no effect, because P5 countries very politely say different words, and they find different argumentation not to sign it. Countries like India also, they find maybe similarly diplomatic argumentation not to do this. So in the end, the whole world is suffering from the disrespectful behavior of those who possess nuclear weapons. We say this because with authority, because we possess nuclear weapons and we possess infrastructure. The nuclear, how do you call this, bombing, this aircraft, special aircraft carrying the weapons, nuclear weapons, other things, the silos and everything. We had the infrastructure and we had the power to keep that, but we voluntarily and very clearly, with clear minds and warm hearts, we threw away this weapon. We call on others to do the same and focus on real development and actually don't waste time in finding money where money is just around the corner, And I'd like to finally thank for your patience. It's late afternoon. We deserve to water our throats a little bit. They say that this is also helpful in the post-pandemic situation. So I once again thank you, all the friends, for your warm hearts and participation. I hope that New York and other platforms, Geneva and other platforms, Vienna and other platforms will continue to reinforce this message, and more importantly, real deeds. Deeds value now. These are very important. We have spoken about this matter enough. We have actually started speaking about this matter in January 1946. Very important diplomats and politicians came and gathered here, and they pronounced very important words. They proclaimed that resolution. So we have to joint efforts to really try to implement this resolution in reality in the offline format, as they say today. Now, Dan and dear friends, I thank you very much. Let's continue engaging in an informal or offline format. Yeah, and once again, thank you. And this is an important year for our independence. This is the 30th anniversary of our independence. I just came here from Parliament. Uzbekistan was celebrating the 30th independence of our years of their independence. My good friends from Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan are here. We all in the post-Soviet Union are celebrating the 30th anniversary of our independence. And we hope that next 30 years will be much happier and much more prosperous than the previous 30 years. Thank you very much.
I have to say a word before you're allowed to get to drinks, which is to thank Your Excellency for an outstanding, spontaneous presentation. For those people, perhaps some of my students watching, who think that ambassadors just come and read out boring speeches, you're a model of erudition, intelligence, and passion in combination, which makes me very happy. What makes me very sad is I now have to go home and listen to Dominic Raab. Thank you very much.